Hello. I have an energy update from the car. Some things that I was receiving today. The general psionic ability, okay? The psychic ability. Whether or not you've believed in this in the past or whatever your background is, you probably do if you found my videos or watching them, or, I mean, who's to say, because I post a variety of content. And I always say that if you came here for the dog, yes, he's part of my life and I always do have dog content, but it's more so about my psychic energy transmissions and the detangling of the current state of affairs on an ongoing basis. Based on what's changing and what I'm sensing, I get a lot of psychic downloads and I have many of the clair senses. So, psionic psychic gifting and abilities. They're activating within the masses or within a lot of people. It's not like, oh, you're psychic or you're not. We are different than we've been made to believe as humans. We're like electromagnetic antennas, and we have always been. Everybody is intuitive and psychic to some degree, but it's like training or strengthening anything. There's natural predispositions, and then there's the ability to hone and strengthen these gifts and stuff. And so, as these things awaken within people who haven't previously experienced them, it's gonna feel a lot like just new thoughts or a different quality in the mind. And there's not gonna necessarily be, maybe there is, but not necessarily the type of discernment within your mind and within your thoughts that you need to have as an intuitive, right? Because as an intuitive, you know when you're getting like an implant or the thoughts of someone else, and all of that, or if it's truly intuitive or it's like ego programming, or, you know, from your own self. But I used to not know 10 years ago when I was picking up on, through a telepathic means, the thoughts of someone else, or, you know, anxiety frequencies that are out in the collective to take people down. So you're gonna see that in the people around you, and you might be experiencing it yourself, as far as a lot of mental chaos. And the key is to always dissolve, collapse like a house of cards, any of those thoughts and those things that are running that point like a flashlight beam. If you can take the seed of thought and point it into the future, does it align with a negative course of events? Even if it's like, say you're suspecting something, okay? You get this anxious thought about like, oh no, what if that happens? Or oh no, what if that's true? Maybe you don't know, but you giving time and space and mental bandwidth to the concept of whatever it is you're entertaining is fueling it energetically, and everything springs forth from the present moment energetically. Time and space is an illusion, quantum physics, blah, blah, blah. And so your mastery and like the Jedi muscle that we're training is how to collapse those things before they bloom, and you just unwrite it, right? And that's a mindfulness skill that is a lot easier said and described than performed, especially on a regular daily basis, constantly, because it never lets up. We always have to be aware and you know, metacognizant of the things that we're experiencing mentally, so that we're consciously engaged within our lives and we understand how we are reflecting in the holographic nature of reality, like as within, so without. This goddamn motorcycle. I'm sorry if it's loud. He's like right next to me this whole time. So I think that as the energy changes, even if you haven't had the context within your own mind to experience your thoughts this way, just be open to it and witness how you feel when you're alone versus how you feel when you're with other people, and how quickly the energy and the moods can fluctuate right now. You might be in a fairly good, stable state. You might wake up and be like, today's gonna be a good day, I feel good. And then, you know, immediately when you like get into work or go to your appointment or whatever it is that you got going on, you're like not in that same space anymore. And it's because the collective is a reflection of all of the chaos that we've been experiencing. I mean, we've been experiencing pretty catastrophic events back to back to back to back. And I'm gonna do a breakdown pretty soon of some of the most recent news clippings that I've been screenshotting, because I would like to detangle some of the themes and just point out that even in these strange times with so much going on, there are these consistent things that the Matrix always wants to redirect our attention to. One of them that's very interesting to me is the threat of aging. It's like there'll be all of this dire stuff about the campaign and the natural disasters and whatever, and then it will be like, new skin cream helps women, you know, stay taut or whatever. And it's like other things that are feeding on certain collective subconscious insecurities that people have carried, that we as a collective do not need to be victimized by any longer. It's a choice. And the more the absurdity heightens, the more that people who don't recognize that it is a choice, it is a choice. People who have ancient soul energy are very much coming into contact with ways of being, like from their Akashic integration that does not resonate with this reality. I mean, it's probably been a feeling lifelong, but right now there's the conscious merging of those soul histories and those simultaneous like templates of your own energy experiencing multidimensionally to make more sense of, you know, why, like consciously why this is optional, the way that we partake in everyday life, like in a very general sense, right? All of the structures, like the way that we use social media and like all of the, even like humor on the internet. I could probably go on a tear about that at some point soon. So that's my energy update. Let me just think for a second about if there's anything more to say with that. Basically, the main message is to, well, okay, I don't like to caution, right, or plant super seeds of doubt if it doesn't feel necessary, but it does right now for whatever reason. So in the event that you don't know what I'm talking about and your mind is just full of anxiety and chaos and like things aren't going well and you're too bogged down to even, I don't know, conjure some type of conscious practice, that could still be a result of you becoming more sensitive, and it could still be the manifestation in your present hologram of what it is that I'm talking about. And it's important to remember that no matter who you are, no matter what position that you're in, there's always, without fail, an ability to migrate higher by way of thought. The doorway is always inside. The doorway is internal. You don't look outside of yourself to go anywhere else. You can radically shift your external circumstances by making internal adjustments. And so the message would be to remember that even if, say, you are stricken with physical ailments and everything hurts or everything is uncomfortable and that's the way that it is, your goal would be to have a slightly better feeling, to imagine and be able to experience slightly fewer symptoms than you have. That's still an elevation from the present condition. And something that I have no shame saying on the internet is that I have genital herpes. Okay? Like 80% of the population does, and it's been almost 10 years, 8 years, and I got it from somebody who cheated on me, who was an asymptomatic carrier, and broke my heart. It was devastating, not to mention some of the worst physical pain that I've ever experienced in the beginning of it. But if anybody knows about herpes, especially HSV2, genital herpes, it tends to decrease in severity over time, and that has certainly been the case with me. But I went through the 5 stages of grief when I figured this out about myself. It devastated me. And I used my energetic, you know, healing abilities to shrink any of the symptoms. First, what I did, and I mean, honestly, medical professionals will probably be like, that's not possible, that's not a thing, but I'm just gonna tell you my experience because I'm allowed to do that. I migrated it off of my genitalia, and I only started getting outbreaks on the backs of my legs. I still have scars from some of them because they were blistering clusters of bubbles, but they were no longer in that area. So that was the first migration of my conscious attachment to the situation. I could not deny in such states of suffering that it was affecting me, but I could ask and request and manifest a better outcome for the present situation. And from there, I shrank it into increasingly more minimal outbreaks that didn't affect me. And one might argue, well, that's just what happens over time. Yeah, but I believe that I made it happen a lot sooner than it would, to the point where I'm basically asymptomatic and don't experience anything physically from having this virus, right, that they say is incurable. And it's interesting to think about a problem or a condition or situation and trying to wrap your mind around solving it or healing from it seems inconceivable, because if it's very big or very complicated, or if you have multiple diagnoses or whatever it is, it's like, it's a Sisyphus boulder. But if you can whittle away and chip the, you know, the exterior of that, like little by little, day by day, and that, again, the doorway to doing that is mental, it's internal. It's not about how you do things physically. If you have questions about the things that I say, to this extent, then just send me an email and ask me questions. I love to talk about it and explain it in more detail to help anybody not be, you know, confused, because there's obviously always going to be ways to misinterpret the stuff that I talk about on this channel. But the idea is that you can't ever make something the size of a Sisyphus boulder into a pea. Not immediately. You have to whittle it down, and it will inhabit, you know, we live in a physical reality where things have to pass through the dense physical matter after we energetically fuel them in order to take shape and fully manifest. What you're seeing is the manifestation of earlier thoughts. In the present, you can actually solve all of your problems if you were capable of fooling yourself into the fact that they don't exist. And a lot of people can't do that. I mean, it's hard. You can't brainwash yourself, but you can start to overwrite the subconscious programming that a lot of us have been brainwashed with different ideas that liberate you from thinking negative outcomes are the only option. And on a daily basis, if you commit to that process, you will be shrinking the way that the physical circumstances that prevail affect you. And you will start to see that reflected the more that you can sustain that vibrationally, the more that you can sustain the change in your brain chemistry. Your neural pathways will change. The way that you physically flow energy throughout your entire system will become rewired, but it is a practice and it requires dedication. And there's just so much to be said for that. And it's really important right now because the changes in the energy, the upticks, the Schumann resonance, the solar flares and storms, and the way that it's affecting the collective. There's so much mental chaos, mental health concerns. People's mental health is suffering, and it will continue, especially for the rest of 2024. And people's physical bodies are suffering as well. And if that's you, then this is like, you know, a tool to help you with that. It's just really important. So I wanted to share that, but also about the way that new abilities are, you know, it's not like you're, I mean, maybe everybody's experience is different, but I like to say and remind people that you're not going to wake up one day and be like, I see dead people. No, it's going to be you, right? Seamlessly merging through how things change. I mean, there's big changes sometimes and sudden changes. In fact, every day for me lately, since the eclipse in April, big changes every day. It's a lot to adjust to. Even for somebody who's tracking this and trying to stay very conscious with it, it's a lot to adjust to. And I can't, you know, imagine how helter-skelter and like lost at sea people might be feeling right now without the belief around, you know, your conscious ability to contribute to how things go. And as a lasting note, what I will say is that we see these egg beaters kind of come into the media and everything, and there's all this stuff going on, and everybody's on their phones looking at the news every day like, oh, it's gonna happen, and we're all just waiting to see, and it's getting all stirred up. Turn it off. You don't have to, I mean, do what you want, do as you will. I'm just a young gal on the internet. I'm an artist who has opinions, and I believe that it's okay. You know, if something truly dire happens, you'll know. It's okay to unplug from it and see how happy you get and see how much more peace of mind you have. You don't have to be at the whim and mercy of these, the visual I always get is like a copper coil getting charged with particles. You know, we're constantly, for the product of Loosh, right, our life force energy, we're constantly being whipped around from these states of fear and trauma around what's unfolding and uncertainty. And it leaves people, it renders people helpless or feeling like they don't know what to do because these issues are, you know, outside of the individual, or so we think. But the reality is that you've never had more power than your individual power. No one does. Nobody has more power than what they individually can do as a person. This is why good groups and communities form, because there is power in numbers. But when everything is so fragmented right now, your power only lies within you. And so a lot of people develop a sense of hopelessness around the fact that like, oh, well, what, you know, my impact isn't going to do anything. Actually, that's not true. It does a lot. You don't have to be witnessed. It doesn't have to be seen or recorded by anybody in order for your energetic quotient to be re-registered on a different level, on a different bandwidth of frequencies where all that bullshit is not taking place and stirring up your, you know, interactivity and convoluting the way that you can manifest and contribute to what's going on. So
Spelling is not supported by voice operation.
Okay. I don't know what that was. I will also say that the technology glitches are just so crazy. My phone just stopped working. I don't receive like text messages from most people. It's every now and then. Like my mom can still text me, which is great, but people from work, my best friends, like people think I'm ignoring them, and that's awful. And I don't know who's trying to get a hold of me. So in some way it's liberating. I'm like trying to figure it out. I've been to the carrier, I've been to the fruit store. For some reason I don't want to say it on the video, that's weird. And they both say it's the other person's fault. We just live in the era of like, I need to talk to the manager, yet nobody knows what the F is going on. Nobody can actually solve or fix my issue. It's very interesting. But again, yeah, it's liberating. It's like, what are these things that are ceasing to work within our lives, and why do we see them as a hindrance to our growth? Why do we see them as an obstacle to what we want and continuing to be okay and like feel like we have freedom and empowerment? Perhaps it's your own attachment to whatever is not working that's keeping you from, you know, the sense and the state of liberation that you could find yourself in if you just radically accepted the circumstances and took that, right? Lemonade's out of lemons style. You can't change what's happening, but you can change your reaction to it. So with that, hope everybody has a great night. We've got 11:11 on my thing, so that's nice. The synchronicities that I've been seeing are so incredibly out of this world. It's just uncanny. I've been seeing a lot of 222, and another thing that I'll just say to wrap up is that sometimes people will email me or get in touch and be like, I see this one all the time. What does it mean? It means different things for different people. The universe is intimately conversing with you. So what does it mean for you? Even an intuitive psychic person won't be able to tell you that. Of course, you can Google. I like Joanne's angel numbers on the internet. That's a very good resource for not only just the 333s and the 444s, but like, I don't know, you know, 1852 or 376. There's an angelic correspondence to the combination of numerological vibrations for every number sequence. And you can look them up. But it's also about what's happening in your mind when you see it, and what if you have a question, if you've asked for a sign, and how you're feeling when these things present themselves to you, or how often they're presenting. So I hope that's helpful, because I don't believe I'm the only one seeing the synchronicities. We're really getting, you know, wrapped up in this beautiful space of quantum potential where it's becoming easier than it ever has been collectively to make great sweeping change that benefits all people involved. And a lot of the issues with how we've been living our lives as a global collective is that we believe that we're doing things that are aligned with the greater good, but if we don't have all the information, then we're not being allowed to fully do that, right? You have to convince a population to wield its free will in a way that doesn't serve them in order to get an outcome that benefits very few. That's what's been happening. So have a great night, and I hope everybody's doing well. And Muttley says hi.